Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting this evening's show. There's a winter weather advisory out here for the southeastern Brooks Range. That's out for tonight, tomorrow, and through Tuesday night, and that's east of the Dalton Highway. Looking for 5 to 9 inches of snow to fall over the next day or so in that area. And the heaviest amounts expected to fall by tomorrow afternoon. And again, that's east of the Dalton Highway and out through Tuesday night. Taking a look at satellite imagery, you can see here over the southeast coast, southern areas were pretty sunny today, but clouds increasing to the north and actually showers along the coastline there from about Port Alexander on up to the north. A few scattered showers in toward Juneau, and then showery conditions with rain back toward Yakutat. And that's a lot of moisture here that yesterday was over the southeast Bering Sea. That pushed across Bristol Bay last evening, Kodiak Island overnight, into the Gulf of Alaska. The heaviest precipitation still off the coast here, and most of it should slide off to the southeast, but it's going to be pretty showery over the Panhandle for the next couple of days, as well as the North Gulf Coast. Up to the north, a lot of moisture here, bringing rain across the central and eastern interior of the state, sliding right up toward the southeastern Brooks Range there, and then a swirl up here on the Arctic coast brought some snow, and then rain and snow this afternoon with some fog to the Barrow area, and clearing out here back to the northwest behind this trough right through here with some cloudiness. You can see it dropping southward, and skies clearing out quite nicely up over the Selawik-Noatak Valley areas. Some sunshine across the Seward Peninsula and into Norton Sound today, but showery conditions back along the southwest interior areas, and really nothing much out across the Bering Sea and the Aleutians today. Just some widespread cloudiness and low clouds and fog. St. Paul having some fog problems today, as well as Shimias down to a quarter mile at times. The visibility a quarter mile in dense fog at times today. But for the most part, watching this band, this trough will actually slip to the southeast later tonight and tomorrow. That's going to keep pretty showery conditions in over south central Alaska. So after a let up today, it should become a little more showery and wet again later tonight and through the day tomorrow, with some of this clearing area dropping southward behind that band of clouds. On the chart, low pressure up over the upper Yukon Valley areas, and the snow here, areas of the North Slope and the Brooks Range area, with some fog over the eastern Arctic coast. Rain at Yakutat today, and the showers increasing here along the north coast of the Panhandle, with a general increase in the clouds elsewhere, but staying pretty nice down to the south. Had some gusty west and northwest winds across Kodiak Island today. Pretty fair conditions there, with 15 to 25 mile per hour winds, but the windiest area was back along the Alaska Peninsula, where winds gusted from the west-northwest up to 30 to 40 miles per hour today. Some showers there on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, but a lot of clear skies here from, again, actually southern Cook Inlet down through Shelikof Strait, and on the lee side, or the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, lots of sunshine today. Eastern Aleutians all the way out to Adak and Atka, seeing a fair amount of sunshine. That's where the warmest temperatures were today. Over Unalaska had 63, and in the lower 60s here over Adak and Atka, and then the low clouds and fog here covering much of the southern and central Bering Sea, and there with the Pribilofs, and then the heavier fog back out to the west, and then some shower conditions here back along the Alaska Range and back to the west, kind of scattering out, but more numerous area here along this trough axis, and becomes kind of a fog, rain, drizzle condition back out toward the southwest coast and on up toward St. Lawrence Island, but some drier air pushing southward, and that's already come a little farther south than what I have depicted on the chart here currently. Looking at the forecast for tonight, again, low pressure right off the southeast coast, so showers in the forecast, but the main rain area staying off to the west and southwest of the area. Showers pretty likely from the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Showers likely again as that band of moisture slips on into south central Alaska, and rain changing to showers over the mid and upper Tanana Valley areas, but the snow up into the Brooks Range. Areas of light snow along the North Slope and the Arctic coast, those east-northeast winds 10 to 20 miles per hour with periods of fog and light snow at times up in that area. Staying pretty nice back out here to the west and northwest, and west of the Alaska Range, showers really scatter out across the Kuskokwim Valley down into Bristol Bay, but tend to persist a little more numerous there along the Aleutian Range and northeast Bristol Bay area. Then there's a chance of some rain, fog, or drizzle, very light amounts here, but look for a general deterioration of flying conditions here all the way from the eastern Aleutians and extending back out toward Adak and Atka as precipitation chances increase a little bit. Still some showers or light rain, fog, and drizzle there along the Alaska Peninsula on the north side of the landmass there, with staying VFR here on the downslope areas to the southeast of that of the peninsula, and that holds true for tomorrow as well. VFR in the Pacific side of the peninsula, some scattered showers still possible here, but winds will be lighter tomorrow as well as across Kodiak Island. Look for mostly cloudy skies with scattered showers here over the southeast coast. The trough still off the coast there. Again, most of that moisture having slid off to the southeast, but low pressure near the Kenai Peninsula. Looks cloudy, at least at best mostly cloudy, with showers to numerous showers here over south central Alaska. Same thing for the Copper River Basin, again from the Alaska Range west, becoming a lot more scattered, maybe some sunny breaks showing up here over northern Bristol Bay across the Kuskokwim and Yukon lower river valley areas, and possibly the delta is still hanging on to some showers associated with this trough extending from 1,000 millibar low there back out toward Russia, and but still dry over the Seward Peninsula, the northern Yukon Delta areas right up into Kotzebue Sound, the western Arctic coast looking pretty dry. So again, some sunshine at times possible, but the North Slope with those northeast winds actually from the eastern Arctic coast, some light snow and fog at times, areas of light snow over the North Slope and then into the Brooks Range. Snow 2 to 4 inches there for the southeastern Brooks Range in the forecast for tomorrow, with again by tomorrow night having 5 to 9 inches expected to fall. And then for the outlook on Tuesday, actually Tuesday night, this system makes a pretty good stride to the southeast and will be coming across the Pribilof Islands probably Tuesday evening and then across Bristol Bay late Tuesday night, and should move to about this position on Wednesday, with rain changing to showers over Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula. Look for those winds to kick up again here. Small craft advisories across the Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay, and up along the southwest coast. Again, back to the winds, northwest, west-northwest, 30 to 40 miles per hour in gusts. Looks like rain over northeast Bristol Bay on up toward Lake Iliamna. Rain chances increase pretty good there for Kodiak Island as that whole system approaches from the west. Break and then showery conditions continue, mostly over the northern panhandle, but chance along the outer coastline there while the inland areas stay relatively dry. Showers, possibly heavy at times for the Yakutat area, with showers back across Prince William Sound. South central Alaska looks mostly cloudy with scattered showers once again, but west of the Alaska Range drying out through the Kuskokwim Valley and mostly dry over the Yukon, maybe the Kuskokwim Delta areas, and then rain and snow over the upper Yukon, Koyukuk valleys back down in toward eastern Norton Sound. And kind of a scattered shower, rain and snow shower condition now for the southeastern Brooks Range, with the advisory having ended. Mostly cloudy, scattered snow showers there for the eastern and central Arctic coast, and areas of light snow along the North Slope right up to the Brooks Range area. Looking at temperatures this afternoon across the panhandle, lower to mid-50s there across the entire region, with 56 at Annette, contrasting that with 51 at Juneau, 53 in Sitka. Same thing in Skagway with 49 there at Yakutat, 50 degrees in Cordova. Kenai pushed up to 50 also, and Homer had 52, 46 in Valdez with 52 at Talkeetna, 51 degrees over at Gulkana, and that same temperature matched at Northway. Otherwise, kind of cooling off there as you head west with the rain at Fairbanks, 45 degrees, 48 at Delta, and a 47 at Tanana. 47 also recorded at Bettles, but Anatovik there, higher elevation, 32 degrees, 34 at Arctic Village. And that same temperature pattern also existing along the Arctic coast there, lower to mid-30s there for the central and eastern areas, upper 30s on the western coast, and then mid-40s here over the Kotzebue Sound area, although Shishmaref did push up to 48 today. That same temperature also occurred at Golovin with 47 there at Nome. And we had 50 degrees in McGrath with rain changing to showers this afternoon. And Bethel had 51 degrees, otherwise Macoriac at 48. And out St. Lawrence Island, that's Gamble with 43, Tin City 41. Upper 40s for the Pribilofs today, and then with the fog and clouds, just 54 out at Shimya, but notice with the sunshine, Atka, the warm spot in the state today was 64 degrees, 61 at Adak. Unalaska 63, and False Pass had 60 also with some sunshine and brisk west-northwest winds. Otherwise Cold Bay in the clouds with 51, and then Sandpoint 57. Kodiak, 59 degrees. Lows for tonight, 40s for the Panhandle, 40s also here across the southern Alaska areas, upper 40s along the southwest coast, lower 50s for the Alaska Peninsula, staying in the 50s here all across the Aleutian chain. Otherwise, colder temperatures, the Brooks Range area into the mid-20s for the lows tonight, and right near or just below freezing for the eastern and central Arctic coast, a little above freezing back to the west, mid-30s for the Seward Peninsula, mid-30s for the Tanana Valley and 40 Mile Country. For the highs tomorrow, 30s for the Arctic coast, north slope into the Brooks Range area with mid to upper 40s, again through the central interior areas, 45 to 50 down toward the southwest coast, and 50s again, much like today for the Panhandle, and 50s, it looks like with more clouds, a little cooler there for some of those areas that saw the 60s today. And flying weather out over the Bering Sea, we've got a big area of IFR here from the north central Bering southeastward there, across Nunivak Island, right down to the Alaska Peninsula area. VFR on the Pacific side, looks like a VFR day for Kodiak Island, and that also some VFR up into Cook Inlet, possibly the Madanuska, Susitna Valley areas, but looks pretty marginal across Prince William Sound. Marginal VFR over most of the Copper River Basin, and VFR over the southern Panhandle. Marginal VFR becomes IFR over the northern areas there, back out toward Yakutat. Marginal VFR up over the northeast interior with IFR in the central and eastern Arctic coastal areas. And then, of course, the Aleutians should be IFR just about the entire stretch of the chain. For passes, Anatovik looks marginal at times, as does Adigan. And both of those passes, the lowest conditions will be on the northern entrance, which could be IFR in that area. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR throughout the day tomorrow. Same forecast for rainy. And for windy, marginal VFR conditions. Isabel looks marginal, and Montesta also looking marginal, as well as Tanita. A lot of marginal VFR through the passes here. Portage, marginal VFR. Should stay above IFR there, but Chilkoot and White looks IFR. And for the freezing levels at the surface here through a good portion of the northern half of the state for tomorrow morning, actually all the way down here to the Alaska Range with 2,000 feet into the Bering Strait and a little back to the northeast there, 4,000 feet over southern Alaska down across the southeast coast, and then a pretty steep thermal gradient out here across the Bering Sea again with 4,000 feet over the northern Bering to 14,000 feet over the southern Bering Sea there, and those winds aloft following this temperature pattern pretty closely, especially aloft. But first for the icing, above about 4,000 feet, light to isolated moderate rime icing here, south central Alaska, Prince William Sound, right up into the Alaska Range in the central Tanana Valley, and then back out across northern Bristol Bay and the Kuskokwim Delta area. Also look for icing threats here above about 4,000 feet for the northern Panhandle up to about Yakutat, and then also up here over the Brooks Range and the upper Yukon Valley back to the Koyukuk above about 3,000 feet. Jet stream northwest, west-northwesterly winds at about 100 knots here, and this system, low pressure, gradually sliding southward, and with this next system up here tracking southeastward tomorrow night and into the right near northeast Bristol Bay on Tuesday. That'll push the jet stream southward, so that's going to keep the northern areas kind of showery and unsettled for the next couple of days in the air mass that resides north of the jet stream. And for the winds aloft at 9,000 feet here, northwesterlies at about 25 to 30 knots across Bristol Bay and Kodiak Island. South-southeast, 10 to 20 knots for the Panhandle. Low pressure up over the central interior, so kind of light variable winds circulating around that, but up to 25 knots there for the Brooks Range and the eastern Arctic coast. And at 3,000 feet, we've got kind of a more west or west-northwest flow, 25 again to 30 knots there across Kodiak Island. Much lighter here from the North Gulf Coast. Southeasterlies 10 to 15 for the Panhandle. Arctic coast, east-northeast 20 to 30 knots up in that area, and then westerlies 20 knots there across the eastern Aleutians, becoming quite light out towards Shemya. And then stronger winds associated with this low, and again that'll be tracking southeastward with those winds increasing over the Pribilofs tomorrow night and then on into Bristol Bay again on Tuesday. With turbulence for tomorrow, light to isolated moderate chop, Kamishak Bay through the Barren Islands, occasional moderate chop there, southern Kodiak Island, Sitkinak and the Trinity Islands, and along the Alaska Peninsula, and then turbulence up there over the western Brooks Range, Kivalina, Point Hope, and the entire Arctic coast there with some moderate chop on the eastern Arctic coast. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor with the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. We'd like to thank Alaska Public Media for allowing us to bring you hangar flying. This evening, we are happy to have Bart Stone back on our show. Bart has extensive flight experience. He's been flying for 50 years in Alaska, and he's got 30,000 plus hours of airplane and helicopter time. He's comfortable flying on wheels, floats, and skis, and he currently works for a commercial operator here in Alaska. Welcome back to hangar flying, Bart.
Thank you.
As you know, August is a challenging month for aviation safety in Alaska. We talked on our last show about some of the hazards of changing weather conditions and the importance of situational awareness. So let's talk about one of those traps that pilots can find themselves in when they get into poor weather conditions, and how do they stay situationally aware?
Well, first of all, you got to know the terrain that you're flying through, where your flight plan's taking you, the elevation of the passes. You know, are you going to be on this side of the range, the other side of the range? Weather can change rapidly between ranges. Examples, you know, the west side of the Alaska range, or the west side of Cook Inlet here, can pile up with a lot of fog and a lot of low ceilings in the late fall here, but you better have an idea when you're flying up the rivers exactly which bend you're on, everything else. And if you're going to persist in flying in low weather, I'd suggest you fly your route in VFR conditions, you know, when it's really nice, and fly it low so you can memorize the turns and bends. Don't depend upon the GPS. You know, depend upon using the GPS for references, but also looking outside and knowing where you're at all times, you know, for situational awareness, for making 180 turns to get out of the weather. What if you get in trouble and the ceiling suddenly goes down? You can go from a solid ceiling to a ragged ceiling when the temperature dew point get really close together, and that's really dangerous because that's when you get this raggedy stuff hanging down, and it can close right in behind you faster than you can believe. And if you don't have a plan, when the visibility and the ceilings come down, that's when you're going to have an accident.
So you mentioned on the last show about the importance of personal minimums, and in your previous job with the Department of Interior, you flew all over Alaska, you flew different aircraft. So that term of personal minimums would apply to different aircraft, different geographic areas in Alaska, and different weather situations, correct?
Yeah, that's totally correct. And I think another thing that kind of sucks a lot of people into trouble, besides you set your personal minimums, and when you get to that minimum, you don't exceed it. You just turn around, land if you have to at the closest possible landing spot, whatever gear configuration you're in. But if you hear reports of somebody else ahead of you making it through some pass, don't take that as gospel that it's good for you. Your skill level might be a lot lower than the person ahead of you, or it might be a lot higher, and maybe the person ahead of you shouldn't have gone there in the first place. So there's two sides of that, where the person ahead of you can be experienced, or the person ahead of you in a pass can be inexperienced and just by the hair of his chinny chin made it through. So don't rely upon following somebody, that has a different skill level than what you do.
When pilots find themselves in those situations, whether it's unforecast weather or something that they weren't prepared for, do pilot reports help them prepare or to make a no-go decision?
Pilot reports are the most underrated, underused tool that we have in aviation. Everybody should make pilot reports and give accurate pilot reports on a common traffic advisory, just reporting your position, reporting where you're at, calling out what the weather is, the winds. That would help everybody tremendously if everybody participated more in that and made a formal pilot report into the FAA so they can disseminate that out to the pilot population. But lifetime reporting what's going on a common traffic advisory is invaluable.
And that's some great advice. We're encouraged to give them to flight service stations or to air traffic controllers, but I think your comment about giving them live, real time to other pilots is incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you very much, Bart. It's been great having you on the show. It's been wonderful to have a pilot with your experience describe the importance of situational awareness and give some great tips for maintaining safety during flight. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your support of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media. Let's do our best for the rest of this year to have a safe flying season. I hope this information has been helpful. Until next time, fly safely.
Welcome back. Well, today's sea ice analysis looks like this, with sea ice here north of Barrow and extending back to the northwest, and then over the Beaufort Sea way back up there to the north of the eastern Arctic coast or Mackenzie Bay. And the forecast for the next 4 or 5 days is across the entire area, east to northeast winds of the light to moderate variety will persist across the area. So this ice flow here should slide to the west-southwest about 10 to 20 nautical miles. And that same forecast for this area of ice, again, moving west-southwest for the most part, again, about 10 to 20 nautical miles. And this persistent area of ice there near the Barrier Islands during the same time period by Saturday may slip to the west at about 10 nautical miles. And moving on to the marine forecasts here, south to southeast winds 20 to 25 knots out along the coast for tomorrow. Seas running 7 to 8 feet. Southeasterlies 15 knots with 3-foot seas for the southern and central inside waters, and more southerly there for Lynn Canal. Outlook for Wednesday, south winds at about 20 knots. Actually, southerly winds all along the coastline there. Pretty uniform wind direction, wind speed, and wave heights with 15 to 20 knots and seas running 6 to 7 feet. Clarence Strait, southeast at 20 with 4-foot seas, and Stevens Passage about the same, a little lighter though with 3-foot seas, and southerlies no change there for northern Lynn Canal. And for northern Cook Inlet tomorrow, light variable winds 10 knots with slight seas. Easterlies at about 15 for Prince William Sound. Southeast 15 here for the western North Gulf Coast, and then northwest at 15 for the western areas. And small craft advisories for the Barren Islands and Kamishak Bay, and small craft advisories continue here across Kodiak Island for 20 to 30 knot winds, 25 to 30 knot winds, 8 to 10 foot seas. And those small craft advisories continue here on the east side of the island for Wednesday. Westerlies at about 30 knots, west 25 for the Barren Islands, northeast at 10 for Prince William Sound, kind of variable wind condition at 15 here for the North Gulf Coast, and another light variable wind day for northern Cook Inlet to northwest at about 10 for southern inlet areas, southwest 15 for Bristol Bay. Otherwise, for the Alaska Peninsula, small craft advisories, westerlies 25 knots, seas 7 to 8 feet. And for Wednesday, still small craft advisories. We're picking the winds up, that low center coming across like this, and the winds will increase 30 knots there from the west-northwest across the entire area. And for the Aleutians, eastern Aleutians, westerlies at about 20, westerlies 15, back all the way to the far western zones there. And then for Wednesday, for the Fox Islands, eastern Aleutians, west-northwest, 20 to 25 knots, northerlies 15 knots for the central Aleutians, and back to the west. For the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, small craft advisories. Otherwise, kind of a variable wind pattern here over the northern Bering Sea, but northeast for St. Lawrence Island, all at 20 knots, westerlies at 20s for the Pribilofs. And for Wednesday, small craft advisories everywhere. Northerlies here, St. Lawrence Island, the northern Bering Sea, northwest along the coast, and the Pribilofs 25 to 30 knots. For the Arctic coast, small craft advisories for the central and eastern coasts there, 25 to 30 knot winds. Small craft advisories also from Wales up to Cape Beaufort. And then for Wednesday, still have those small craft advisories, east-northeast winds, 25 to 30 knots here in the west, and 20 to 25 knots from the east and northeast there for the eastern zones. And for tonight, showers to the Panhandle, showers here through the southeast interior to south central Alaska, drying out back to the west, snow advisory for the southeastern Brooks Range area. And then for tomorrow, numerous showers here across south central Alaska, more scattered down across the Panhandle, showery for the Copper River Basin, snow up there in the Brooks Range and the eastern Arctic coastal areas, and a few scattered showers along the southwest coast. And then that system tracks eastward there, so the winds increase again across the Alaska Peninsula with rain and showers here from southeast interior across the Panhandle.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.